Welcome to After 40. This is Debbie Heiser, and I'm so excited to present Marco Ciappelli today. He is one of the founders of ITSP Magazine. He's my boss at ITSP Magazine. He's also a mentor with the Mentor Project, and he is the son of an amazing, amazing mom who lives in Italy. I would have loved to have interviewed her, but she speaks Italian and I speak English. And so Marco is here as the interpreter for what she would have said. So welcome, Marco.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be on the other side of the microphone instead of being the host to be a guest. So I'm starting to do a little bit more of this, and this is actually the first one that the topic is the storie sotto le stelle, which means stories under the stars, and that's the adventure that I'm kind of having with my mom, and I'm very excited to share it with you and see what we can talk about.
Well, let's start. Tell me your mom's name and tell me a little bit about her. And when you tell me a little bit about her, tell what her age is and why she started this book writing now.
Well, it's interesting. So her name is Lucia, and she was born in 1946. So I'm gonna let people do the number here, but she's in the up 70s, and she was born in the countryside on the hills around Florence, in a very 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 small town, and that's where at the time where the entire world was pretty much the little slice of world where you grew up, and that's where my grandfather also grew up. My grandmother in a little town nearby, and you only go to the big town for major event until the day that they run a one of those store where you pretty much have everything in the small town in the west where you can buy pretty much whatever you want. You can have a meal, you can have a coffee, you can buy stuff that you need for the house. And so she grew up surrounded by people, and then they moved to a little bigger town, which is where I was born, called Sesto Fiorentino, which is 6 miles from downtown Florence. And I myself grew up in a grocery store since when I was this big, and I experienced kind of like what she experienced growing up. And so she always been in contact with people. She always had a lot of experience by interacting with the small neighborhoods. And the reason why I'm getting there is because one day we were remembering things that happened in that store and how the supermarket and the big distribution kind of killed all the small town store and the life that was happening there. So I said to her, why don't you just like write down this story, this anecdote that you remember, that involved grandpa, that involved grandma, and my dad was working at the store as well. And so she did, and she loved it. And this was like 2 years ago. And I didn't never know that she used to write her own like little diaries and travel experience when she came and visited me in the United States, and so on. And she just kind of she had a spark in her, and she started writing a lot of these short stories. And I encouraged her to do so because I felt after she retired, I know she kept busy, but I didn't see that, what the Japanese call hikigai, like that reason to wake up in the morning, besides family, of course, and, like something that she could look forward every day to do. And we had this conversation with you in the past. I know you talk about this quite a bit. So
Yeah. You
that's how
know,
we got to this. That there is a little twist, which is we never publish those stories, which we will one day. And I say we because I help her a little bit, decided to write fantastic and enchanted and magical stories for kids or anyone that wants to hear it, with the moral of the story, with enchanted castles and magical thing that happened, and I don't know how she thinks that stuff, but she does. And I just polish it a little bit, and sometimes share a few ideas, and then we use artificial intelligence to translate it in English, and we have it read. So we have a podcast now about that.
Wow, what an explosion of new activity in her 70s, that, she got to tap into something that's completely different from what she was doing before. And, you know, it sounds like she's always been creative, but that it was a quiet hobby that she had. And how does she feel now about all of this? A podcast, more than one book. It sounds like a whole new lifestyle for her.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't published the book yet, but the idea is to actually do publish the short story. There is a website where people can read it, and of course the podcast. And she, I don't know. My dad sometimes like you talk to her because she's just always talking about the stories. Everything she does inspire her for a new story. And this story are really, again, kind of surreal. uh, there's candies that grows on walls, and and magical bicycle race on hills where the winner get a star. And I mean, a lot of things that happen, and I'm like, "Well, how do you think about this thing?" It's just like, I don't know. I observe people. I'm on a train, and I see a guy maybe with a big mustache. It inspire me that maybe he's a magician, maybe he's a wizard, maybe he's something that she can transform into something else. And how the way she actually changed is that she started to be interested in reading even more. I mean, she always loved reading, but she dived in. She's one of those people that if she does something, she just go all the way. and and so she started reading all these books for kids, and she started going to the local library all the time, where they actually have a nice room and organized event for kids. So she's been asked to actually do the reading herself, which she hasn't done yet, but she is definitely going to do it. So her kind of social life has changed in a way too, because she got involved with, I guess, not having a grandkid. My fault. She's enjoying other people kids.
You know, it's really amazing how, as we all get older, right? We hit midlife and beyond, and we never have time when we're younger and working and raising a family to fully tap into our hobbies, our passions, things that really are a part of us that we don't get to fully um, unwrap. And it's so amazing to get to hear when someone finally gets to do that, because not everybody will do it. Some people are too intimidated. They feel that their identity is in their previous role. They have a hard time pivoting. But your mom just dove right in. And fortunately, you were there to help guide her. Can you tell me a little bit about how you helped to encourage and guide her to start with this new passion project of hers?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted her, like I said, to have this purpose, new purpose, because as you said, and it's so true. She grew up. I mean, she grew up in a store, as I said, and she worked full time in the store, and she was busy all the time. And even when I was growing up, my babysitter was all the people in the store because I was always there. We used to live above the store, so she would find the time, helped with my grandma, of course, and my grandpa to take care of me. But it was always busy running around, opening the store, doing her job, and then yeah, never had time for herself. And she got to the point where she had a lot of time for herself, but she still kept busy. But I felt like she was busy on a routine and not busy into something that she really, really
Right.
loved. So when I kind of tapped into this idea of telling story and she dived in, I'm like, this is it. I want to be part of it because being in the United States and she being in Italy, we talk to each other every day, also with my dad. And it gave us even an extra thing to be closer, to be ally and co-working on something. And she's very open to my input. You know, I have a creative vein myself, so sometimes we just laugh about where the direction of the story can go, but she's always the one that initiated it. So I don't want to be ever the one to take over, but I want to be the one that I'm there if you need to review it. I'm there if we need to translate it. I'm there if we need to build a website. And I'm there if you're kind of stuck into something, or maybe sometimes I feel like, this is a short story and you're going to 2,000 words now. Let's clean it up. I'm kind of like being the art director, and she loves this. Every suggestion I do, she just take it with excitement, but she's also stick to her gun. If I change things a little too much, it's like, hey, this is not what I wrote. So she's a real writer. Like, when you translate something and somebody else, the editor does it, it's like, hey, it's still my writing.
So, I love this because a lot of people don't know how to interact with their parents in a non-caregiving role, like with the parents who are doing the caregiving, whether it's for grandchildren or for their children themselves, or the children feeling like they can only be there in a way to go fix things around the house or do things for their parents. And you are really illustrating the way that we can continue an emotional connection with a parent that obviously opens new doors to how you see your parent and how you interact with your parent. And it's beautiful to hear this. It's an option that we all have. Most of us just don't think of it as an option. And it sounds like you're having such a fun ride with this.
It is fun. It's almost an inspiration for me that I've been postponing to write my own short stories. And I know that I take time on the side that I'm not working in doing that, but it doesn't matter. It's an inspiration for my own story. I feel like they are in part my own stories, and it's so worth it. It's just so worth it to build this thing together that I ended up. I said I'm just gonna be a little ghost in this, and instead on my website, I have my Redefining Society podcast about technology, and then I have the one about storytelling, which is audio signals. And I'm like, I am also this person. So Storia sotto le stelle is on my personal website as well, because it's another one of those adventures that we're doing together with my mom. And I feel like it's kind of like having a relationship with anyone else where, I don't know how to explain this, but like you said, it's not just about taking care of them or taking care of a friendship, but it's actually being partners.
Yeah.
Right? Being constructing something, creating something together. And I think the relationship, it gets so much more. It's like if you play music with someone, you're sharing a creative moment that
Yeah.
it's just amazing. And we laugh. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a great way to be close when we are far away. But when I was there in Italy, we spent every single moment. We're like, oh, finally, I was there like a month and a half ago. I'm like, finally, now we're just gonna sit down and write things together. But she doesn't really need any input because she's like, oh yeah, I have like, here's all my ideas, and she showed me like 20. I'm like, slow down. I mean, we have literally 30 stories that need to be edited, and we already have, I think, 15 on the website. And I'm like, we're going to need a sponsor here.
It sounds, what's amazing is that and you mentioned this, that you live far away. You live half a world away from her. And what a way to connect that isn't, hey, mom, how's the weather? Hey, mom, how are you doing? You guys are engaged in a project together where you're both thinking together, interacting together. You have a purpose for your calls. You are tapping into things that you both have in common that you share together. You're both really expanding your relationship, which is beautiful. And you don't even have to live in the same town to do that or see her, which is beautiful. I know that this kicked off after the pandemic, and Zoom became such a prevalent way of communicating. I think that people don't know just how powerful Zoom has become in creating these opportunities for us to communicate with our family members who are far away.
Yeah, definitely the role of technology. And what is interesting is that my mom was definitely not someone that grew up with technology. Like she grew up with analog, but not even ever being interested much in, like how does a radio work, even analog things. But with me doing what I do and wanted to share experience with me, the moment I remember that I told her about the generative AI, and she has a smartphone, and she knows how to do things on the smartphone that her friends of the same age they don't. They go and ask her, and she's not a computer science genius, but she's like, so this chat gpt, and I'm like, yeah, here, install it on your phone. So she use it every day. She used ChatGPT, and she talked to people that they don't even know what generative AI
Yeah.
is. So she just dive in, and she just like she, but she that's how she is. If we go in a restaurant, and there is something weird on the menu, she's one of those that are like, I'll try it, and then I'll tell you if I like it or not. My dad is the opposite. He'll be like, well, I'm not touching that. I don't like it. I'm like, if you don't try it, no, 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 no. So it's kind of like it's a fun relationship because they I guess they compensate each other.
But you've opened a new portal for your mom, a new world that she was able to step into and is continuing to step into. And,
Yeah,
the point of after 40 is to really show that after 40, we can be whoever we want to be, do whatever we want to do, and have relationships in really positive, amazing ways with everybody. And you're a shining example of that. I really am excited for you to share your mom's website and any of the podcasts that she's on, as well as her book in the show notes for this, because this story is one that I'm hoping is going to inspire others to communicate with their parents in a new way and to see their parents as creative individuals, not just as caring moms or dads who, support us in whatever we're doing, but that we can help to open portals for them as well.
yeah, I agree with that. And what is funny is that the website is very impersonal. I mean, I promote the stories often on my LinkedIn and, like I said, on my website. But my mom's name, we have more of this mysterious character that we created. There is the first story is actually who writes this story, and so it's the story about like this little firefly that has a little desk in the little nest that at night she writes the story. And the name Lucia, it means light. It comes from the root lux from Latin, and so the idea of the lucula, which is also the firefly that sparkle magically, this light at night, it's very magical. And when you read these stories, you see there is often this luminescence and little little mushroom that talk to each other, and adventure full of magic. And we wanted also the writer to be magical as well. But now people know that it's her, and I'm happy for that. I mean, I'm representing her. She speaks a little bit of English, but I not enough to do a full conversation in English. But I'll be happy to translate this in Italian for her, once it's published. And of course, I would love to share um, everything for people to discover this, because they are for kids, but they're not for kids. It's for young adults and for, I mean, I share it with people my age, and they love it. And there is a lot of Italianity. Yeah, I don't know if that's a word, but Italian feel in it. And I want it to be like that. Like we translate it, what we don't make it necessarily. I mean, it's our culture, it's our world, and I want it to be as spontaneous as it can be. And if people don't like it, we have a lot of fun anyway. And that's what we say all the time. We're not counting the people that listen. We're not counting the people that read it or go on the website. We just have so much fun doing it. It's a wonderful hobby to have. And I'm excited that I'm here sharing it. I mean, like 2 years ago, we weren't even doing these things. And now I'm talking about it.
I love it. I really do. I hope you can share a picture of your mom as well in the show notes, because it's a beautiful, beautiful story of you and your mom connecting, and also of your mom embracing things that she's had inside of her whole life and is finally getting out because of your help and support with her and connections. So,
But
son
I
of
have
the
to
year,
say
award to
that it's
you.
thank you too, as well, because she knows who you are even before these stories happen. And I told her all your explanation about aging and how we grow a curve. And well, you know, the spirit is there. And I think that has been part of my inspiration to bring this to her as well, as it's never too late, and you can always get better and better.
Mhm.
And you know, even if you want to start learning the piano, I've heard story of 80
Yeah.
years old people started learning the piano, and yeah, maybe they're not going to do a concert, but it fulfilled their life. So, and it's thanks to you as well. Thank you.
People do things that you think you have to start when you're a kid to become an expert in it at any age. People have, run marathons, become painters, have, become writers like your mom is, all kinds of things. We just forget that happens, and we don't highlight it as often as we should. So I'm excited to highlight your mom and excited to highlight you as the son of the year for kicking this off, because honestly, we need to inspire ourselves to engage more with our loved ones in meaningful ways like you're doing. So thank you, Marco, for coming on today. I hope everybody checks out ITSP Magazine as well as After 40 previous episodes if you haven't logged in before. But there are so many great recordings on ITSP Magazine, so please check them out. And check out the show notes, because we're going to have a lot about Marco's mom. Thanks, Marco.
Thank you, Debbie. It was so fun to be here and share this story.